exec, el Vélez, el fenómeno que todos quieren ser, el chamaquito que no pueden entender.
How we doing, guys? Welcome to the Exec Talk Podcast. I am your host, Velez. This is episode 159. What's up? All right, big episode. I don't want to make it too long. It's late. Once again, my ADHD and ADD has forsaken me. Got distracted with the wifey and, just watching stuff after work. But we still got to talk about a lot of stuff. So even if it's long, I'm still going to be here. I'm not going nowhere. First thing we got to talk about, of course, is the Formula One. So we'll get to that. Then we have a bunch of MLB news that have come down the pipeline, including the Juan Soto decision, which we're going to dive into. The Max Fried, Tyler O'Neill. I have some thoughts about that, as well as we have the bracket set for college football. That's completely set. We're going to go through that. We're going to go through the slate. We're actually going to go through what happened in the championship weekend. We're going to go through the NFL football slate. We are starting to get into the point, or we've already gotten to the point where I'm not going to talk about toilet bowls that much. Yes, I'll go through maybe the stats here and there, but what we care about here is who's going to make the playoffs. What are the playoff races looking like? So that's what we're going to mostly focus on in the NFL. And in the NBA, today is the first night of knockout rounds in order to get to the final. So we'll go through that as it's going on right now. But let's get to the last Grand Prix of the year in Abu Dhabi. And I said it, guys. I told you that McLaren was going to come with a vengeance, that Lando and Piastri were going to come with a vengeance because they felt like they haven't ran their best race the last two races, including when they lost the championship, and they have the best car. Complete utter domination in qualifying. Lando and Piastri 1-2. They secured the constructors title with a win. The funny thing is, Lando finished first, and then Sainz and Leclerc finished second and third, but it didn't matter because they already came in with I believe a 31-point cushion. So the only way to beat them would be to win the race and have somebody in the podium places. And that didn't happen because Lando kind of took off and never came back. Different penalties that were handed out. You had Verstappen with a 10-second. Another penalty for Verstappen, but he recovered pretty well. A horrible last qualifying for Lewis. Was supposed to start 18th because of grid penalties with Leclerc for a new transmission and the Williams boys. He started 16th, and in his last drive for Mercedes, he finished a great fourth, I believe. He couldn't catch up to the Ferraris, he finished fourth, so right outside the podium places after a horrible Q1 in his last race as a Mercedes driver. Ferrari just didn't have enough to go against McLaren. Verstappen finished somewhere in the top 10. It escapes me right now. But Leclerc went from 18th to 3rd, which is really remarkable. That car was just on rails, and they played the strategy right with the tires. Verstappen got a 10-second penalty because he crashed into Piastri from the third spot. He crashed into him in turn one, and then so basically it ruined his race, essentially put him all the way back. He probably had something for Lando, but after that penalty, that was kind of over. Lando and McLaren, as well as Piastri, win the Constructors' Championship for the first time since 1998. Mika Hakkinen was maybe racing for the team at that time, if I'm not mistaken. That was still Williams, Damon Hill day. Actually, no, that was like 95. That was like beginning of Schumacher dominance with Benetton and all that. But that was like McLaren's last Constructors Championship. This one was hard fought. Red Bull had the lead for most of the season until McLaren started like really like lifting up its pace, bringing better package. And yeah, shout out to Lando, shout out to McLaren. The papaya is back at number one. Something we got to talk about is that Cadillac in 2026 will be the 11th team. We have Audi taking over for Sauber next year for Kick. We have to say goodbye to Checo. He will be no longer racing in Formula One, as well as Kevin Magnussen. He will be racing in the BMW Le Mans car, in the hypercar for Le Mans, in the WEC. Yeah, we're saying goodbye to a couple of people. Sainz is going to Williams. I don't know how that's gonna go, to be honest, with that car. I think Fernando's still racing because Adrian Newey is gonna be there, which is weird for him to just go there. Fernando's there, but then you got a guy like Lance Stroll, which is kind of like a mid driver for a guy like Adrian Newey. But then again, Adrian Newey was there when Checo was there, so you know, I guess it only makes sense. Other than that, it was a good race, exciting race. I like that track. It has two big DRS zones where passing is possible. Always like that track. Of course, in 2021, I didn't because it cost Lewis his 8th championship, but maybe he can rectify that next year at Ferrari and get his 8th championship, breaking that tie, because he is the greatest of all time. I could run down the stats here. I actually have it. His Mercedes tenure. I have it right here. I got it bookmarked on X. His career at Mercedes is just incredible. I mean, you're talking about 6 world titles because he won the other one with, technically, he won it with McLaren in 2009, I believe, or 2008. 8 constructors titles, 84 race wins, 153 podiums, 78 poles. I mean, just the goat of goats. And still with much to be accomplished, in my opinion, still has, I think, that fire to go chase championships, even at 40 years old. And, you know, I think it was a very sweet ending. He cried. He did donuts in the front stretch. You know, he celebrated as if he won. It was really a heartfelt moment. For a guy that, like me, I've been watching, you know, Lewis since his McLaren days and when he went to Mercedes and started dominating. Bittersweet. Love Mercedes. Love Toto. But, you know, even though I will always root for that team, my alliances are always with Lewis. Lewis is my favorite driver, has been forever. So, you know, I hope that he can get a chance at his 8th world title, but it's going to be tough because you're going to have next year, it's going to be like a 6-man, 5-team, depending on what happens with Adrian Newey and Aston Martin. They might be 6 teams that are legitimately in the mix, but mostly 5. You got Ferrari with Lewis and Leclerc, Red Bull with Verstappen and whoever they want to put in that seat. You have Mercedes with George Russell and whoever they want to put in that seat. And then you have Aston Martin with Fernando and Lance Stroll, and then you got Ferrari, and then you have McLaren with Oscar Piastri and Lando Norris. The favorites are definitely going to be McLaren just because of how they ended the year, how this year went. I believe that Ferrari's going to come with a vengeance because they were so close at the Constructors title, and really having Lewis there, I think they're going to try to push him to get that championship. Really watch for Max. Max can come out like a bat out of hell and try to win his, 5th title in a row, which would be unprecedented. It would be crazy. At the age he is, he's 27. Or maybe with Adrian Newey's help, you have a Fernando Alonso, 44, 45-year-old getting wins and getting a 3rd championship, cementing him as one of the all-time greats, which he already is in many people's eyes. Or you could get a new champion with George Russell. You could get a new champion with Lando. Maybe Oscar Piastri shows up to be a better driver than Lando next year, which I think is very possible. But I think it's going to be a very exciting year. Last year of the regulations that we currently have, the car that we currently have. It's going to be new, but still kind of uniform to what we've seen the last 2-3 years. And then 2026, we completely jump the hurdle and change absolutely everything from power unit to aerodynamics to size and width of the car, base, everything. So next year is the last year for those guys who have been tinkering around with this platform that they have to try to make it as best as they can to get the best that they can, because 2026, and they're probably working on that car now, it's going to be completely different. So anybody can win 2026, because nobody knows that car. All right, so that was Formula One. Now, let's get to MLB real quick before we get to football, because I want to do football all on its own, college, and then NFL. But we have to talk about these 3. So first of all, you got Michael Conforto going from the Giants to the Dodgers, another big popper that they can put in the lineup anywhere, really. But, you don't want to take 1 from Ohtani. You don't want to take 2 from Mookie. You don't want to take 3 from Freeman. Then 4, you got Teoscar, unless he leaves. If he leaves, maybe they did this move to plug him in for Teoscar in that 4 spot, which would make perfect sense, because then it would balance out it would keep the lineup pretty balanced. But I think it's a pretty good move for the Dodgers. Now, what we have to really talk about is the Juan Soto contract. We're talking about 15 years, and I really thought he was going to the Yankees, and the Yankees had a $750 million deal on the table. But because his agent is Scott Boras, because Scott Boras will always ask for the most, and because Cohen, the owner for the Mets, has the deepest pockets in sports, this man offered him 15 years. Got to clap for that. 15 years. $765 million. This is just for a hitter. Okay, and in the outfield, he's good, but he's not like all world. He's not a Kevin Kiermaier. He's not, he's not one of those. $765 million for the Mets to pry him away from the Yankees, which I think he should have been a lifelong Yankee, to be honest. He has that type of feel, that type of just stardom. 26 years old, already basically has a Hall of Fame resume. A world championship. But for the Mets to pry him away from the Yankees, right? But then you look at the Mets and you look at the Yankees, and if I'm Juan Soto, I don't give two F's about the extra $15 million. Because if I look at your team, we are literally me, Lindor, Vientos, and Alvarez. That's it. Rotation? There is no rotation. Severino's gone. So you're talking about I have to go out there. Yeah, I'm making $765 million for 15 years. But I have to go out there in the division that I'm in, not just the league, the National League, which is the more competitive league, but in the division that I'm in with the Braves, and you're telling me that I have no pitching? I think that it was a bad move by Juan. I think he should have stayed at the Yankees. What did the Yankees do to pivot? They signed Max Fried to 7 years, take him away from the Braves. They signed him to 7 years, and their rotation, their starting rotation next year projected is Garrett Cole, Max Fried, Carlos Rodon, Luis Hill, and Clark Schmidt. That is a hell of a 5 rotation right there if they all stay healthy. Cy Young winner, a guy that can win a Cy Young. I mean, everybody in that 5 could win a Cy Young if they're in the right stuff. Garrett Cole already has one. Fried is nasty. Rodon can get nastier. Gill is just starting. And Schmidt is right in the prime of his career. And they get a lefty. Another deal that surprised me was Andres Jimenez after what he did with the Guardians and what he has done with the Guardians. Platinum glove, being one of the best defenders in the league, and what he did for him in the playoffs. He's going to the Blue Jays in a trade. So that's a big loss for the Guardians, in my opinion. Nathan Eovaldi's returning to the Rangers on a 3-year deal. They need that. Jordan Romano, the Blue Jays closer, he's going to the Phillies. They need that closer. Alvarado, I don't think, was cutting it at that point, especially in the playoffs. You saw him, weaken. So Jordan Romano's an actual closer. I think that's a good move for the Phillies. The Conforto agreement is a 1 year, $17 million in the $17 million range. He earned $18 million last season, so it's kind of like a prove it deal, essentially. Same thing they did with Teoscar. And then the Juan Soto deal is kind of weird because he could get even a bigger, it could be extended. So in 2029, he has an opt-out. But the Mets can void the opt-out if they increase his contract from $51 million a year, which is what it is right now, to $55 million a year his last 10 years of the contract. Will they do that? It depends on his performance, obviously. But, yeah, Juan Soto got $305 more million than Shohei got a year ago in present-day value of his deal. That's insane. What's even more insane that they did it for a hitter. Not a pitcher and a hitter like Shohei that they gave him $700 for 10 years because he's a pitcher and a hitter. No, they gave it to him as a hitter. That means that I believe in the next 5 to 10 years there will be a player. Maybe it's Ohtani, it's a 10-year deal. Maybe not Ohtani because Ohtani's 29, 30 now, would be 40 at the end of the deal. But maybe, a guy like Bobby Witt, a guy like a Jackson Holliday, an Adley Rutschman, a Gunnar Henderson, a Paul Skeens could get $1 billion in the MLB, could be signed to a contract that says $1 billion. That's how close we are. 765. And we jumped 65 million in 1 year. So, yeah, I think really, really crazy. Tyro Estrada goes from the Giants to the Rockies on a 1-year deal. Blue Jays right-handed pitcher Yimi Garcia goes to the Blue Jays from the Seattle Mariners on a 2-year contract. Willie Adames becomes a Giant. Really big loss. Really, really, really big loss for the Brewers. That was their linchpin, their shortstop, a big bopper. So that's going to be very interesting to see how the Giants, now that they're going to get Jung Ho Kim, I think that's the name, or Jung Soo Kim. He got hurt last year. They're really, really young really talented Korean player. Suhu Kim, something like that. Then they have Willie. They lost Willie Conforto. They lost Tyro, but they still have like things in the chamber. Jastrzębski, you still have Bailey. So you still have young pieces in the chamber. So that's what's happening in baseball as of right now. Other things can happen. We're still waiting on Dylan Cease, Garrett Crochet, Corbin Burns, Teoscar, the Polar Bear, Pete Alonso, Christian Walker, which the Yankees are supposedly in talks with. Yeah, so you still got a lot of chips to fall, but that's what's happening as of right now in baseball. 15 years, $765 million. I don't think we'll ever see that again. 15 years, that's an A-Rod contract. I know they can do it because if it was a 10-year, you get them it ends at 36. So you add the extra 5 and you get them to 40, 41, retire as a Met, hopefully with a couple championships as a Met, he's already a Hall of Famer, 500 home runs, an on-base percentage of 400, the Juan Soto treatment. Okay. Now let's go to the bracket. Actually, no, let's go through the games and then we'll go through the bracket. So the games were very interesting, in my opinion. Arizona State destroyed Iowa State, 45-19. Iowa State kept turning the ball over, could never recover. Scatabo had a great Scatabo had a great Big 12 championship. Just ran them over. They could do nothing with him. So shout out to Arizona State. They made it in as the 12th seed. Georgia beat Texas in OT. The game within itself, 22-19, it wasn't that exciting. A lot of turnovers. But Georgia, being the juggernaut that they are, found a way in OT to finish it. You have Oregon beating Penn State 45-37. Those 4 teams are all in. Georgia's in, Texas in, Penn State's in, and Oregon's in. That was not going to change regardless of outcome in their championship. So Georgia's the SEC champion once again. I think it's Kirby's 3rd or 4th SEC championship. Texas comes up a little bit short on taking the SEC in their first year in it. Penn State, Oregon, 45-37. This was an offensive showcase. Penn State running the ball with Singleton and Katron Allen. Oregon, Tez Johnson, Dylan Gabriel. I believe the other wide receivers, Higgins, if I'm not, let me see here. No, Kenyon Sadiq, I believe, is the other wide receiver that I'm talking about. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Kenyon Sadiq, he's nasty. Speed everywhere. James ran pretty well. Katron had 14 carries and 124 yards and a touchdown. Adler went 20 for 39, 226, 3 touchdowns, 2 picks. A great day from Heisman hopeful Dylan Gabriel, 22 of 32, 283, 4 touchdowns. Jordan James, I believe that's his name. Yeah, Jordan James. 20 carries for 87 yards, 2 touchdowns. Tez Johnson, 11 catches for 181 yards and a touchdown. And Tyler Warren, he's going to be a first-round pick in this upcoming draft as a tight end. He's the number 1 tight end in the country. 7 receptions for 84 yards. 45-37. I mean, it was a shootout, and Oregon was eventually going to win. Clemson beats SMU 34-31. Really crazy game at the end. Clemson's winning. SMU drives down. Jennings ties it with 16 seconds left, and then Cade Klubnik, drives them down with 16 seconds left. They kick a 56-yard field goal to win the game and get into the playoffs. SMU still in, but Clemson makes it in. Boise State makes it in. They won the Mountain West Championship 21-7. Genty had another 209 yards. Could not pass Barry. He was 100 yards short. And then Army beat Tulane in the American Athletic Conference. So the playoff bracket is Clemson versus Texas in Texas. That one's December 21st. Okay. Arizona State gets the bye because they're the Big 12 champs. Clemson and Texas is interesting. I think Texas wins, though, just because of talent and everything like that. But Clemson could be a little feisty, especially with Dabo. Probably the best first round matchup is Tennessee, Ohio State in the horseshoe at Ohio State. I like Nico, but I think Ohio State has a little bit too much, even though they kind of disappointed me against Michigan, obviously. So they shouldn't even be here. They should have been in the Big Ten championship against Oregon in that rematch. But I think Ohio State has the advantage in talent. And then they have to stop the run with Dylan Sampson. But on the outside, Ohio State is just nasty. Jeremiah Smith, and, of course, you got Emeka Abuka and Prentice. So I think overall, I think Ohio State has it there. Oregon gets the bye, obviously. Then you got Penn State, SMU at Penn State. That's going to be interesting. I want to see Jennings against that Penn State team. They lost to Clemson, but that Penn State team, they can run the ball. That's what they're going to try to do. Boise State gets a bye. And then Indiana, Notre Dame, Kurt Signetti versus in Notre Dame. That's the first game of the playoff to kick off. That's the 20th at 8 p.m. on ABC and ESPN. Notre Dame is a 7.5-point favorite right now. Indiana's going to pose problems, though, I think. I like Riley Leonard, but I think Indiana's going to pose problems with that offense. And then, of course, Georgia gets the bye as well. Let's go to the NFL. Okay. Packers-Lions came closer than I thought it would. Lions come out with the win. 34-31 in a very close game. Very close game in the sense that if it wasn't for the ballsy calls of Mr. MCDC, Dan Campbell, possibly could have lost this game. So they give the Packers a 10-point lead at halftime. Goff was playing great. Love did not play great. Lions had a 10-point lead at halftime. Then they came back. Love played great in the second half, but in the first half, he was atrocious. Goff played great throughout. It's just accurate passing by Goff, just hitting the windows when he needs to, hitting his receivers in stride so they can keep getting yak. The run game worked. For both teams, I would say the run game worked. If we go to the box score, we got Jordan Love 12 out of 20. So there wasn't a lot of passing for the Packers. They ran the ball 24 times for 99 yards, mostly on Josh Jacobs, 18 carries for 66. Jordan Love had 12 for 20 for 206 and a touchdown, a sack of 7, 92.6 QBR, a 111.7 rating. Christian Watson had 4 receptions for 114 yards on 7 targets. Dontavian Wicks went 4 for 49 on 5 targets. Tucker Kraft 3 for 41 on 1 target, on 5 targets and a touchdown. Watson lost a fumble. Their defense gave them 1 sack, that being by Rashawn Gary, and Keyshawn Nixon got a pick. As for Detroit, you had Jared Goff throw 41 times, 32 of 41, 283, 3 touchdowns, 1 pick, and I believe it was tipped, that pick. 1 sack for 3 yards, 91 QBR, a 109.7 rating. David Montgomery went for 51 yards. Jameer went for 43 yards on 14 and 15 carries, respectively. David Montgomery scored a touchdown. Jamison Williams went 5 catches for 80 yards on 8 targets. Laporta went 5 for 54 on 7 targets. Tim Patrick, 6 for 43 on 7 targets, but he caught he caught 2 touchdowns. Amon-Ra didn't have a big game, but he had a touchdown. He went 5 for 43 on 6 targets. They were trying to keep a cap on him. And then you had Jameer. He went 6 for 30 and a touchdown on 6 targets. David Long Jr. recovered a fumble. And then they got 1 sack from the defense, that being by Zadarius Smith. No picks. They survived by the skin of the teeth. Like I said, MCDC going for it on 4th down. It made sense if you really think about it, because that's how MCDC just plays. So it did make sense. But they were saying, maybe just kick the field goal and just tie it. And go up by 3. You were going to give them a minute and a half left, plus the kickoff. If they want to run it back, maybe that runs off some. But I think that Dan Campbell did what he needed to do. Jake Bates hit a 35-yarder to win as time expired. It's just more to seeing Dan Campbell just trusting feel. Trusting what he sees, trusting feel. I think the Lions were supposed to win this game. Okay? The field goal came after, where's the 4th down here? 4th and 1. In the Green Bay 21. So you're right there in field goal range. And you kick the field goal. But you would leave a minute and 1 second, I believe, on the clock. When they took the timeout, they had 4th and 1 with 43 seconds left. The first down after they got the first down, and Goff almost never made it. He got stepped on, fell on his knee, still got the handoff to David Montgomery. Montgomery ran it for he ran it for 7 yards, ran hard, got the first down. They just dwindled it down and kicked the field goal with zeros on the clock, essentially. But great win by the Lions. Packers fought hard, but they were in Detroit. So that was going to be hard to win. Okay. Saints, Giants. All right, guys. This is no playoff teams. Derek Carr got hurt again. Giants still can't do nothing. They can't run the ball. They can't pass the ball. They can't rush the passer. They can't do nothing. Complete and utter dumpster fire. Utter dumpster fire. I don't understand why we cannot pass the ball more to Major League neighbors. You have nothing to lose. Pass the ball to Major League neighbors. Don't do it till the second half. I don't understand. Their offensive line gets pushed back, so they can't run the ball. I mean, it is a mess over there. A mess. And then for the Saints, it's just so many injuries. Now you got Derek Carr injured. You already had both receivers injured. Like, yeah, it's unfortunate for him. You know, very, 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 very unfortunate. And they have no future in the playoffs, so it's done. That's it. They gave it the old college try, and it did not work. So that, I mean, we could go through the recap a little bit. The box score, nothing fancy. Derek Carr went 20 for 31, 219, a touchdown and a pick. Kamara went 17 for 44. MVS, 4 for 51 on how many targets? On 7 targets. Juwan Johnson, 4 for 50 on 5 targets. Foster Moreau, 2 for 40 on another 2 targets. On those only 2 targets. And Alvin Kamara went 5 for 35 on 5 targets. Spreading the ball around. Then you have Carr fumbled it, recovered it. Juwan Johnson fumbled it, and MVS was the one that recovered it. To be honest, I don't know where the Saints go from here. They need a quarterback, but are they going to get rid of Derek Carr? I don't know. They just need to be healthy on the outside, to be honest. They need Olave, Shaheed. They haven't been there for the longest. So 14-11, boring-ass game. Steelers-Browns, we knew that the Steelers were going to win. We only lost two this week. We lost the Bills game and the Titans game. 14-27, Steelers-Browns. Steelers are firmly in that second seat in the... Actually, no. Well, yeah, with the Bills' loss. I got to check the standings real quick, but I think they might be in second. Let's see here. No, they're still third. Buffalo's still second, still clinched the playoff spot. We'll get to that. So Steelers-Browns was something that I thought in my heart of hearts would be dominated by defense. And that's exactly what happened. Dominated by the defense. TJ Watt, Herbig, Alex Highsmith, Cameron Hayward, just the front line, the linebackers. They just so good. So good defensively. Offensively, still don't like it. At all. I don't understand why is it so hard to make that team look better and more explosive than it is. I don't understand why it takes so long to figure that out. But, you know, if we look at the box score, you get a Jameis Winston performance of 24 of 41, 212. And Nick Chubb runs for 11 carries for 48 yards, so not that much. Jameis 212, 2 touchdowns, 2 picks, 3 sacks for 16 yards, 38.8 QBR, a 68.3 rating. Jerry Jeudy went 5 for 64 and a touchdown on 6 targets, and Njoku went 7 for 42 and a touchdown on 11 targets. Damn, you only completed 7 and you targeted them 11 times? That's tough. Fumbles, you had Myles Garrett recover a fumble. You had Jameis Winston fumble. And then you have Kadarius Toney. He fumbled and lost the fumble as well. Their defense gave them one measly sack. That came from Myles Garrett. No picks. On the Steelers side, though, there was a little bit of fireworks. Just a bit. I thought the Browns had somewhat of a chance, but then I saw that defense and I was like, yeah, nah. They have the same problem as Kansas City. Left tackle doesn't work. But for the Steelers, it was a pretty good day for Russell, I guess. 15 of 26, 158, 2 touchdowns, no picks, one sack for Lewis. I mean, I'm getting confused here. Jesus. Yeah, Russell 15 out of 26. They ran the ball 35 times, so not, a little bit of discrepancy there in the balance. The QBR was 54.7. The rating was 101.1. Najee went 16 for 53 and a touchdown. So 3.3 yards a carry, what we expect from molasses feet. Najee Harris. 9 for 47 was Najee went 16 for 53. So like I said, concrete feet. Still can't do nothing, averaging 3.3 yards a carry there. Jaylen Warren went 9 for 47. He looks productive, like I said, forever. Freiermuth went 3 for 48. Scotty Miller went 3 for 38. Mike Williams went 3 for 36. And Russell Wilson carried 6 times for 17 yards. Yeah. Then you have Van Jefferson, Calvin Austin the second. Or the third, actually, Calvin Austin, the third, one measly catch for 4 yards on 4 targets. That's embarrassing. And James Pierce had an interception. Keanu Benton had an interception. They got 3 sacks from their unit. They got Cameron Hayward with 2. And then they got Alex Highsmith with 1 as well while they're bringing up the waterproofing. Or listen, guys, I still think that Pittsburgh is like not really a Super Bowl contender, in my opinion. I don't think so. It's my opinion. Not because I hate the team, it's just because I think that once they face a Kansas City, a Baltimore, a Ravens, I think they just don't have enough offensively and especially like defensively, not the corners, but the interior, the Quincy Williams and CJ Mosley, like stuff like that, I think become problematic in the future. Then you got Vikings, Falcons, 42-21, an absolute masterclass by Sam Darnold, JJ and Jordan Addison. I told you when they drafted Jordan Addison, he would be a number 1. He works just like T. Higgins, basically being a number 1 for the number 1 that they are basically not allowing to have any play. I'm sure the fire alarm guys are just gonna be trying to put out the fires in Atlanta. I think Kirk is probably not the answer anymore. You put it in the rookie. You put in Michael Penix. You see how he does. Maybe he can develop a strong rapport with a strong rapport with Sam. Sam also is moving out of the pocket more. He's making more off schedule throws. He's looked like he came from college being like that, and then he lost it, and I know where it came back, and it's just been like that ever since. For the Falcons, tough loss. I mean, Kirk Cousins went 23 for 37, 344. No touchdowns, 2 picks, 1 for 6. 6. Sorry, guys. I am tired. Here we go. So, Kirk went 13 for 30, 23 for 37, 344. We entered. Lobby is at entonces, that means anyways in Spanish. Bijan went for 22 carries and 92 yards and a touchdown, so that's good from him. Algier stole one of his touchdowns from him. Raven McLeod called a kind of like a two-way. You know, Bijan gets some, Tyler gets some, but it's whoever has like the really, really hot hand. So, yeah. Mooney had Algier went from 9 for 63 yards and a touchdown. Mooney, she's supposed to. Mooney went 6 for 142. No touchdowns. So he took off, and he's gonna keep taking off as their number one option. Well, especially yeah. And then you got Ray McLeod, 8 cars and $97. Then you got Ray McLeod at 8 to 36. Yeah, Drake London 5 for 70. Kyle Pitts take. Then Drake London went 5 for 70. Kyle Pitts went 1 for 14 on 6 targets and only gave him 1. That's insane. Ray McLeod got a fumble and recovered it. And then you also have on their defense 4 sacks. You got Caden Ellis with 1, Eddie Goldman with another, Matthew Judon, Arnold Ebiketie. That's who you're looking for, number 17. I think Lorenzo. And yeah, that's it for that game. I mean, besides the Sam Darnold going ballistic, 22 of 28, super efficient, 347, 5 touchdown passes, 0 picks, 4 for 29 from sacks, and the dream worked. Boom. Sam Darnold went 22 for 28, 347, 5 touchdowns, no picks, 4 for 29 on sacks, 84.2 QBR, a 157.9 rating. Aaron Jones went 13 for 73. They really didn't run the ball that much. And a touchdown. Yeah, Jordan Addison go for 8 for 133 and 3 touchdowns on 12 targets. JJ went 7 for 132 on 7 targets. So I think it was just a coming out party for Jordan Addison. We were been expecting this after they drafted him. We knew he was a Biletnikoff Award winner, being the best wide receiver in football. We knew that was in there. We knew he was going to be a number 1, but he's just behind the best in the world, or one of the best in the world in Jamar, in JJ. So I think it was a good step for him. He just has to keep it going. And then Justin Jefferson went 7 for 132 and 2 touchdowns on 7 targets. Hawkinson went 4 for 45 on 5 targets. Their defense was nothing. The Brian Flores defense played great, and they did everything they had to do to take care of business, and that they did. Raiders, Buccaneers. Buccaneers are the only ones who have a shot. They take the lead in the division with a loss by the Falcons. They beat the Raiders 28-13. It wasn't even that close. Aiden O'Connell went 11 for 19, 104, so putrid day. No touchdowns and an interception. Sincere McCormick, 15 carries for 78 yards. Aiden O'Connell, 6 carries for 6 yards and a touchdown. And then you got Michael Myers, 7 for 68. Jacoby Myers, 7 for 66. And Brock Bowers, 3 for 49, which is a low number for him. Low number. Compared to what he was putting up. O'Connell lost a fumble. Desmond Ridder didn't lose it. He recovered it, but he fumbled. And Trayvon Merrick, they suspended him because they, repeated conduct. As for the defense, they got 4 sacks, but they really didn't do much. You got half a sack from Trayvon Morig. You had Darnell Holmes with a sack. Half a sack from Kaylavon Chason. And then Jack Jones caught a pick. Kaylavon Chason caught a pick, but didn't amount to much. So, yeah, and then you go to the Raiders side, and it's just 18 of 29, but only for 295, 3 touchdowns, 2 picks for Baker Mayfield, 4 sacks for 27 yards, a 43.1 QBR, a 101 rating. Rachaad White went 17 for 90. Bucky is hurt. He only carried it 4 times for 3 yards, but he's hurt. So their leading rusher was Rachaad White at 190. And yeah, it's Tampa Bay in a nutshell. Their defense gave them no sacks. Took that Cassie right to home. So that's sorry about that. So that's Raiders, Bucks. Just kind of controlled by the Buccaneers. Eagles, Panthers. The Panthers are no longer the worst team in the NFL. They have graduated to a competent team with Bryce Young, finally showing that number 1 pick talent out of Alabama that he showed us last year. But now in the NFL, I feel really proud of him for coming back and persevering through. I think it shows that he definitely has the right character for the position. And he's playing great, to be honest, without much out there, kind of just throwing it to Adam Thielen and let the old savvy vet take you down the field. I mean, it's not ideal, but it does the job. Jonathan Brooks has torn his same ACL as last time, unfortunately. So he's out for the year again. But yeah, man, the Eagles just supposedly they can't get on the same page, him and Jalen Hurts and A.J. Brown, but they're still winning. So, winning is contagious. They're 11-2, right on their way to that number 2 seed behind Detroit unless they slip. Bryce Young went 19 for 34, 191, a touchdown and a pick, 1 sack for 7 yards, a QBR of 85.8, 69.6 rating. Chuba Hubbard went 26 for 92 and a touchdown. Adam Thielen went 9 for 102 on 11 targets, so they really hyper-focused on him. Xavier Legette, 2 for 39 on 8 targets. David Moore, 2 for 25 on 5 targets. No fumbles. The defense got 4 sacks, 1.5 by Ashawn Robinson, and then a 1.5 by Josie Jewell. And then on the Eagles side, it looks a little bit better. Jalen Hurts went 14 for 21, 108, 2 touchdowns, no picks, 4 sacks for 25 yards, 71 QBR, a 110.8 rating. Saquon went 20 for 124, still on pace to break Barry Sanders' record, which is Eric Dickerson's record for the most scrimmage yards and also rushing yards in a season, held by Eric Dickerson. So he's on pace to break that. Jalen Hurts went 8 for 59 on the ground and a touchdown, that being a tush push or brotherly shove, however you want to call it. A.J. Brown went 4 for 43 on 4 targets. Smitty went 4 for 37 on 6 targets and a touchdown that tied the game. And then Alcantara caught the touchdown in the middle of the game, 3 for 16 on 3 targets. Jalen Hurts fumbled, but Cam Jurgens recovered. The defense got 1 sack coming from Zach Bond, and C.J. Gardner-Johnson caught a pick. They were the better team, yes, but all the way until the end, Carolina gave them a fight, like a complete, like utter fight. Like they could have lost. Like the Eagles could have been upset in this game. We go to play-by-play. It literally came down to the wire. Well, the way that they got the lead was right here in a 7-yard play drive. They ended the third quarter and started the fourth quarter with a touchdown to Calcaterra, and then the 2-point conversion attempt. Saquon Barkley rushes it in, and they get to 22, and then they just stop them in the whole fourth quarter. Stopped them on downs on the last drive that they had. They couldn't convert on 4th down, the Panthers, that is, and that's what ended the game 16-22. Jaguars, Titans, I don't even want to talk about this game. The Jaguars won 10-6. I got this wrong. I picked the Titans. One of the most boring games I've ever seen in my life. Will Levis is not the answer, even though he shows some promise sometimes. For the Jaguars, they won this game based on defense. They might need a new quarterback in the draft. Who knows? Maybe another wide receiver, but they definitely need help everywhere because this is also a dumpster fire. Jets, Dolphins. Dolphins win in overtime. We got that right. As soon as overtime came, we started using Jonnu Smith. He caught 3 balls for 49 yards, including the touchdown that won the game. Aaron Rodgers did really well. So did Garrett Wilson and Devontae Adams. They both went over 100, I believe, for the first time being together. No Breece Hall this game. And then Tyreek had a good game, finally. Waddle had a pretty good game, finally. But Rodgers went 27 for 39, 339. A touchdown and no picks, 3 sacks for 20 yards, 73.8 QBR, a 104.5 rating. Braylon Allen went 11 for 43 on the ground. Isaiah Davis went 10 for 40 on the ground and a touchdown. They ran the ball 21 times to throwing it 39 times. Not much balance. Garrett Wilson went 7 for 114 on 10 targets. Devontae Adams went 9 for 109 and a touchdown on 11 targets. That's what I expected all year long. I don't understand why it took so long to get that type of involvement. from your two best wide receivers. No fumbles. The defense gave them no sacks and no interceptions. As for the Dolphins, Tua played well, 33 of 47, 331, 2 touchdowns, no picks, no sacks, 80.4 QBR, 104.1 rating. Devon Achane went 14 for 24. We ran the ball for 44 yards on 19 carries. I mean, it was putrid, pathetic. But then we made it up on the passing game with Tyreek going 10 for 115 on 14 targets and a touchdown. Waddle going 9 for 99 and on 12 targets. And then Jonnu Smith 3 for 44 and a touchdown on 4 targets. Those all 3 receptions were in overtime. And no fumbles. Our defense gave us 3 sacks. 1 by Jordan Brooks and 2 by Zach Sealer. We didn't pick them off or anything, but we won at home. We're still technically alive. I say technically loosely. Seahawks, Cardinals. Seahawks win. Cardinals just can't get out of their own way. They need more offensive firepower. They don't have it. Marvin was basically non-existent this game except for the first touchdown of the game. Gino went 24 for 30, 233, a touchdown and no picks, no sacks. QBR of 47.7, a rating of 110.1. Zach Charbonnet had a great game with K walk out, 22, 134, 2 touchdowns, just a great game. JSN went 6 for 82 and a touchdown on 5 targets. Shaq Charbonnet went 7 for 59 on 7 targets. DK went 4 for 49 on 6 targets. And then the other... Oh, no, it was only 1 touchdown, right? Yeah, it was only 1 touchdown, the one to JSN. A fumble by Gino, recovered by JSN. And then their defense gave them 2 sacks, 1 by Jonathan Hankins and the other one by Rayshon Jenkins, the former Michigan Wolverine. As for the Cardinals, Kyler went 25 for 38, 259, 2 touchdowns, 2 picks that were backbreakers. 2 for 24 on sacks, 41.2 QBR, a rating of 80.9. James Conner, 18 for 90 yards on the ground. Trey McBride led the Arizona Cardinals 7 for 70 on 14 targets. They just force-fed him. Marvin Harrison Jr. on 4 for 49 on 8 targets. Michael Wilson caught the first touchdown, 2 for 57. The first touchdown was 41, so all he got was 6 yards the rest of the game on 3 targets. James Conner fumbled, and then Tip Ryman recovered. Their defense gave them 0, no picks, nothing. 30-18, Seattle takes firm control of the NFC West, which have been basically the division where everybody wants to lose and nobody wants to win. But I think Seahawks now, having tasted wins in back-to-back weeks to take control of the division, I think that they're going to be pretty stoked about that ending the season. Rams Bills, best game of the one of the best games of the season by far, highest scoring, 44-42. You had the Rams take a 17-7 lead, I believe. Let's see here, play-by-play. You had a touchdown by the LA Rams to Puka, I believe. No. Where is it? Touchdown Rams. Who scores it? I'm trying to find who scores it. Took an official timeout. 8:26. Kyron Williams ran 3 yards from the Buffalo 3. Oh, okay. So Kyron Williams got the first touchdown. Then you got a touchdown by the Bills right away to Josh Allen on basically a brotherly shove. Field goal, Rams, then blocked punt by a blocked punt by Buffalo. Oh, no, by the Rams. That is returned back for a touchdown. Then you have a touchdown by the Rams again. Ty Johnson with a 41-yard pass from Josh Allen. He just outran everybody, kind of like a screen pass. Then you had a touchdown by the Rams again. I think this one went to Puka for 4 yards on a 4-yard run. Then you had a first punt, first actual successful punt by the Bills. Then the end of half. Then the start of the second quarter, or the end of the second quarter. Then the start of first quarter of the third quarter. Bills punt, and then LA scores touchdown by Kyron Williams. Then Josh Allen comes right back, throws a touchdown to Khalil Shakir that outruns everybody for 51 yards. Then you get another touchdown by the Rams to Cooper Kupp on a nasty inside post. You have another touchdown by the Bills, another 1-yard run by Josh Allen. Then the Rams finally punt. Another touchdown by the Bills makes it 35-38. This one was a Mac Hollins 21-yard pass. Then you have another touchdown by the Rams to keep it to get to wrestle away the lead, make it bigger, to extend the lead. Kyron Williams went up the right tackle for 5 yards. Then you got another touchdown by the Bills to make it 42-44, but at that point it was too late. They ran the ball on a first and goal from the 1, didn't get it, wasted time. Took the first time out, which basically screwed them for. They had to go onside kick from there, down 2, and they didn't get it, and the game was over. Really big shocker to me that the Bills lost this game, but this just shows that, 1, any given Sunday, 2, this was at SoFi, and ultimately 3, that Rams team is nasty when they get it all together and they're all healthy. Kyron, Puka, which was unstoppable, Cooper Kupp, that D-line with Verse and Fisk are going to be and Byron Young, they're going to be a force of nature. They just need back-end people. They need corners, safety, even though Cameron Kitchens is good. So Josh Allen went 22 for 37, 342, 3 touchdowns in the air, and then 3 touchdowns in the ground. So he had 6 touchdowns total. QBR of 90.3, a rating of 117.2. Then Josh Allen went 10 for 82 and 3 touchdowns on the ground. Then Khalil Shakir went for 5 receptions, 106, and a touchdown on 8 targets. Amari Cooper went 6 for 95 on 14 targets. Matt Collins went 4 for 57 on 6 targets and a touchdown. And Ty Johnson went 2 for 55 on 3 targets and a touchdown, no fumbles. Their defense gave them no sacks and no picks. And then as for the Rams, you have Matthew Stafford go 23 for 30, super efficient, 320, 2 touchdowns, no sacks, 97.6 QBR or 132.6 rating. Kyron Williams went 29 carries for 87 yards. They ran it 42 times. They passed it 30 times, so it's not a lot of balance there. 12 discrepancy. But when you go 42 for 137, that's okay. 3.3 yards a carry, but you score 3 touchdowns. 2 by Kyron, 1 by Puka. Then Puka goes for 12, 162, and a touchdown on 14 targets. Kupp goes 5 for 92 and a touchdown on 8 targets. Their defense gave them nothing, no interceptions, no sacks, but they scored more points than the other team. Rams go to 7-6, still in the hunt for the NFC West. Bills go to 10-3, already clinched the division, so they're kind of like stuck in their spot unless Pittsburgh decides to drop another one, which is entirely possible with their upcoming schedule. And then the Bills can really cement their second place in the conference. Bears 49ers. Bears suck. They had 4 yards of offense in the first half. And they picked it up a little bit more, but by then it was over. Jawan Jennings caught 2 touchdowns. You had Kittle ball out. They just needed this 38-13. They needed it. It was at Candlestick in Santa Clara. They just needed it for their morale, for their hopes for the playoffs, and just overall team spirit. Caleb went 17 for 23, 134, and 2 touchdowns, 7 sacks for 46 yards, 32.5 QBR, a 116.9 rating. DeAndre Swift went 14 for 38 on the ground. They ran the ball 21 times for 68. It got out of hand, so they couldn't run the ball no more. DJ Moore went 6 for 49, 8 targets. Roma Dunze went 4 for 42 and 2 targets and 2 touchdowns on 5 targets. Finally, they're looking for him. And then 3 receptions and 30 yards for Keenan Allen on 5 targets. Caleb lost a fumble and 1 sack from the defense, being TJ Edwards got the sack. Yeah, that's was a massacre, kind of, basically. Chiefs, Chargers, this ended wildly. Chargers go down. They go up by 1, 17-16. But you give Mahomes a 146 left, 147 left. And you lose the game. And that's exactly what happened. Chargers did everything in their power but scored touchdowns in the red zone when they needed to. And Patrick Mahomes got the ball and just drove it down the field and won their 12th game. They're 12-1 right now. Already cinched up, 9th time they've gotten the AFC West crown, so they're champions. Shout out to them. But I think that overall, so shout out to them for the NFC West title. Of course, they want the number 1 seed. But I think overall, what this game showed me is that the Chargers still need people on the outside. They need a legitimate running back. Excuse me. Their defense is great, but you need to couple it with good pieces on offense to surround Justin Herbert. Justin Herbert went 21 for 30, 213. No Ladd McConkey. He was hurt. A touchdown to Quentin Johnston. 3 sacks, 19 yards, 67.3 QBR, a 101.1 rating. Gus Edwards, they ran the ball 24 times for 94 yards and a touchdown. Gus Edwards had that touchdown. Palmer went 6 receptions for 78 yards on 9 targets. Stone Smart went 3 for 54 on 3 targets. Quentin Johnston went 5 for 48 and a touchdown on 7 targets. Darius Davis fumbled and recovered it. Their defense gave him 3 sacks, half a sack by Tui Tuilopu. Khalil Mack got half a sack, and Derwin James got a full sack. No interceptions. KC, it wasn't impressive, but it was impressive at the end. Mahomes went just 24 for 37, 210, a touchdown, 3 sacks for 8 yards, 60 QBR or 88.8 rating. Isaiah Pacheco went 14 for 55 on the ground. They ran the ball 25 times, threw the ball 37 times. Travis Kelce went 5 for 45 on 6 targets. Xavier Worthy went 5 for 41 on 6 targets. DeAndre Hopkins was 4 for 32 on 9 targets. Juju Smith-Schuster went 2 for 31 on 2 targets. No fumbles. Their defense gave them 3 sacks, 1 by Nick Bolton, 2 by Trayshawn Wharton, and no interceptions. Yeah, the Chiefs are still the Chiefs. You know what I'm saying? That's basically it. The Chiefs are still the Chiefs. Still the number 1 seed. Still, most likely the road to the Super Bowl is going to go through Arrowhead again. And that's awesome. And then lastly, Bengals, Cowboys, another Jamar Chase game, 177 receiving yards. Just absolute destruction of the Cowboys secondary. This game was decided on a special teams play, a blocked punt that went forward over the line of scrimmage that becomes a live ball, is touched by a Cowboy. As they try to get it, they miss. It's covered up by the Bengals. The Bengals get it, drive down, and then I believe it was like a 40-yarder. Joe Burrow to Chase. Let me see here. Joe Burrow to Chase was a 40-yarder where he led him inside on a hitch. He took off, and there was nobody there. He took off running. 27-20 was your score. Cowboys tried to hang tough, but with that blunder like that, you're not going to do anything. Burrow went 33 for 44, 369, 3 touchdowns. I just thought the Bengals were going to win this game. I just felt it in my heart of hearts. 3 touchdowns, 1 pick for Joe Burrow, 369 on the air, 33 for 44, 2 sacks for 10 yards, a 73.2 QBR, a rating of 112.8. Chase Brown, they ran the ball 19 times for 74 yards, so not a lot. Jamar Chase went 14 for 177 and 2 touchdowns on 18 targets, just force-fed him. Chase Brown went 6 for 65 and a touchdown on 8 targets. Yossi Vash went 4 for 41 on 5 targets. Gesicki went 3 for 24 on 3 targets. T. Higgins went 2 for 23 on 5 targets. And, shout out to the Bengals. 5-8, but they have one of the best top 5 quarterbacks in the league, and of course, probably the best wide receiver in the league. You got to debate with JJ and his brother, and also Tyreek. But I think right now Jamar has the advantage. And as for the Cowboys, the dumpster fire of a season keeps going. Unfortunately, T. Higgins only had 2 catches for 23 yards. That was surprising on 5 targets. I thought they would target him more, but it didn't happen. Joe Burrow fumbled. Tanner Hudson recovered. And then Maema Nagmeta, sorry if I butchered that name, also recovered a fumble. Their defense gave them 3 sacks, 1 by Trey Hendrickson, 1 by B.J. Hill, 1 by Joseph Osai. Geno Stone caught a pick. On the Cowboys side, Cooper Rush went 16 for 31, 183, 2 touchdowns and a pick, 3 sacks for 17 yards, an 18.8 QBR, a 77.8 rating. Rico Dowdle went 18 for 131, his career high, just coming off a career high last week. They ran the ball 25 times for 156, 6.2 yards a carry, so they ran it pretty well. But they just could never recover. After that, block punt, fumble, that's crazy. CeeDee Lamb went 6 for 93 and a touchdown on 7 targets. Ferguson went 3 for 32 on 6 targets. Logan Schoonmaker went 2 for 22 on 2 targets. Cavante Turpin went 1 for 16 on 4 targets. Amani Uruwaye, which is the guy that fumbled. And then they got 2 sacks, 1.5 by Maurice Liufau, and another half by Donovan Wilson. And then Malik Hooker has a pick there, but I know it's not a pick. But yeah, that was the NFL Week 14. We only lost 2 games, so I think we went 12-2. So shout out to us. The standings as they are is Buffalo already in the playoffs. Just have to lock in their seed. Miami's the only one in the AFC East who's still alive. Pittsburgh is 10-3. Baltimore's 8-5. So right now it's KC, Buffalo already in the playoffs. They just have to, punch in seeding. Pittsburgh is 3rd. Houston's 4th. Baltimore's 5th. LA Chargers are 6th. Denver is 7th. And then Miami and Indy are there 6 and 7. But they have to catch up to Denver, and I don't think they'll catch up to Denver at 8-5 or the Chargers or Baltimore, unfortunately. And the Bengals are 5-8. They haven't been eliminated, but they're basically almost there. Everybody's eliminated. Cleveland, Jacks, Jets, Tennessee, New England, Raiders, they're all eliminated. In the National, in the NFC, you got the Detroit Lions already with a playoff berth. You have the Philly with a playoff berth already. And then you have Minnesota as your 5th seed, Green Bay as your 6th seed. Your 3rd seed is Seattle at 8-5, and your 7th seed is Washington at 8-5. Tampa Bay still in it at 7-6, even for their division. The Rams are still in it at 7-6 in their division. Atlanta's still in at 6-7. Arizona's still in it at 6-7. San Francisco's still in it at 6-7. Even New Orleans at 5-8. Dallas at 5-8. 4-9 Chicago. And Carolina, 3-10, still in it somehow. And the Giants are eliminated. So, and then for the stats, they're getting pretty high up there. Burrow is at 37.06 for yards, number 1 in the league. Barkley's at 16.23, number 1 in the league for rushing. And then Jamar Chase at 1,319 yards for receiving. He's 200 above JJ for that number 1 spot. Zaire Franklin leads the league in tackles at 135. Trey Hendrickson leads the league in sacks at 12.5. Myles Garrett is 2nd. And then Xavier McKinney has 7 picks, and so does Kirby Joseph. Let's touch the NBA real quick. The standings as they are is Cleveland in the East. Cleveland, Boston, Orlando. No more Franz Wagner, so they don't have Paulo or Franz. And they still beat the Suns yesterday. Knicks, Miami at 5, Milwaukee at 6, Atlanta at 7, Brooklyn at 8, Indiana 9, Chicago 10, Detroit 11, Philly 12, Charlotte 13, Toronto 14, and Washington 15. In the Western Conference, OKC, Memphis, Houston, Dallas, Golden State at 5, 6 is Clippers, 7 is Denver, 8 is the Lakers, 9 is Minnesota, 10 is Phoenix. You got 11 San Antonio, 12 Sac, 13 Portland, 14 Utah, and New Orleans with all their injuries. And now Brandon Ingram, also out for an indefinite period of time with the sprained ankle, is going to be tough. They're 5-20, and it's over. It is definitely over there. All right, guys. That was episode 159 of the Exec Talk Podcast. I am your host, El Velez. I love you guys. God bless you. Thank you for always been supporting me. We're only getting bigger. Like, subscribe, hit the notification bell, comment, follow me on all my socials, and I'll leave you all with the outro.